Hello, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Philip Woodcock. I'm with Vectors Inc., and we are located in Colorado and New Mexico. Um, Bear with me while I get this recording going. If I make any mistakes today, please bear with me. This is kind of a new thing for us, getting this whole system up and going. I was saying, if you want to contact us, we're available both in Colorado and New Mexico. You can contact us online through vectorsinc.com. And today, what we're going to be talking about are creating, editing, managing feature code libraries. Right? So this is not going to be processing feature codes. This is not drafting with feature codes. This is actually dealing with the libraries themselves. You're going to be able to import different information into one central place so that you can have one consolidated library from multiple sources of input. So let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to be working in today is Feature Definition Manager. You can find Feature Definition Manager by going to your Start menu, and under Trimble Office, you'll find your Feature Definition Manager, as well as, if you're inside Trimble Business Center, you can access it along your top toolbar. All right, so once you're inside your Feature Definition Manager, it's just an open software, and there's not even an open workspace yet. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a new file. Like I said, we're not going to start with an existing one, so we are not going to use that global features. Although if you like stuff from it, we can use it to import some data from later. So let's go ahead and hit our new file. You can also go File and New File. So however you want to do that, go ahead and click your new file, and that will bring up our new workspace. So what we want to do now is go ahead and populate this with the information that we want. And Trimble has laid this out in a logical format to where we'll build categories, and inside of those categories, we can then have features. And a feature can be a point, a line, an area, or a block. And then we can assign different controls to those lines and blocks if we want them to be positioned in certain ways, scaled in certain ways, rotated. It gives us some controls on those. And then after we get all of our feature codes built, we can organize those into groups that are logically organized for fieldwork. So the first thing that we're going to do is start by creating a category. And since we're doing survey work right now, let's go ahead and make our first category survey. So up on the top, we can hit our new category, or under our file, if we right click, you'll see your new, and you can access all of those same functions right here through your right click menu. So either across the top or through the right click, however you want to do it. Go ahead and let's make a new category. And I'm calling survey. And it automatically changes. You don't have to enter. You don't have to move off of it. You just have to kind of move your cursor, and it'll go ahead and change its name over on the left-hand side. So now underneath that survey category is where we're going to develop our actual feature codes. And let's go ahead and start with a point. So let's hover over the top of that. And again, let's right click, and we see that we can go new and a new point feature definition, or we can come up top here and do our new point feature definition. So when we get our point feature definition up, we first have to name it. So let's start off with something kind of generic, and we'll import some data to get the symbol that we want with it, and then we'll kind of go from there. So this first one, let's start with a survey marker. And our code, let's call it cap. Okay. And you can get more fancy than that. It can be brass, it can be plastic, and you can go as deep into the woods as you would like into these feature code libraries. So again, it's under our survey category. And for the layer, we have some automatic layers that are built into these workflows from Trimble, and they're the zero layer and the points layer. So since we have a points layer, I'm going to start with it. But as we go on, I'll start creating new layers with different features that we create. This label style we're going to talk about towards the end, and I'll show you where you can access that. We actually have to control that through Trimble Business Center, and once we do that setup, we can then come back in here and select different label styles. And then, as opposed to just doing the standard, we can import a new one. So right now, we're just going to go with none here, but like I said, we're going to circle back around and spend some time with these styles. And so since this is my cap and it's a survey marker, I can have that color by layer, or I can pick my own color of what I would like that to be. And since that's a survey cap, let's go ahead and make that stand out a little bit. And they, depending on what they are, they may or may not, you may or may not want them in your surface, but I'm going to not include these in our surface right now. Click OK. So this is not what I would use as a symbol for my survey marker. It's not what I want to use anyway. Underneath my lines and symbols on the right-hand side of our feature definition manager, I'm going to right-click, and you'll notice that I've got a couple of options here. I'm going to go to New Symbol, and this one is going to be my survey marker. And this is a cap with LS. Okay. Again, I don't know if it's, plastic, aluminum, brass, whatever. Those can all be different features if you want them to be. I'm not happy with it being a cross either. So I want to go ahead and import some symbols. And I'm going to look for that file that I want to grab those symbols from. So I navigate out through my Browse button, and I can do older libraries, like from TGO, which is still kind of the library that's carried forward through the Feature Definition Manager. Or I can actually import these from an AutoCAD file, either DWG or DXF. So I happen to have a couple of DWGs in here that I have symbols in, and this one here I like a lot, so I'm going to open up my symbols DWG, and that gives me all of these different symbols that are already built. So I scroll through and I look and I look to see which one I want to use for this, and I determine that we're going to go ahead and go with our this one. Oops, made a mistake already. Let me go back in there. Sorry about that. Again, that's good to kind of see it a couple of times. You can see it. Pick the file. When they're here and you pick the type that you want, you actually have to move it from the right-hand side of the screen to the left-hand side of the screen. You can move them all at one time if you want, or you can just move them one at a time. I'm moving them one at a time because I'm going to pull different symbols from different AutoCAD files, different symbol files. So there's the one I want. Now it's on the right-hand side of the screen. Now when I click OK, and I pull down my pull-down menu, it's available to me. So I'll pick it. And again, our color we decided was a magenta. So now it wants to know its placement. So in the placement, you can rotate it. I'm not going to rotate it at all. And now I can determine its size and its scaling. Well, it's going to be a fixed value, but I don't want it to be 1 meter. Okay, so let's go ahead and make this about 4 inches. So about 0.1 meter. And that's going to be ground size. Now, again, I can dimension this based on the ground or on sheet. Click OK. And so now here's my new symbol that's going to be associated with my survey marker. Okay, so that's importing one there, and that's a good one. So we can go ahead and let's create another point right now. So another one that we want to do, so under our new point, and we'd want a natural ground. We'll call that a ground shot. and it's under our feature category. We're going to put this one on our points layer. And again, we're not going to mess with our label style yet. And our color, I'm just going to go by layer. That's fine. If I click OK now, it comes up. And for a ground shot, I'm actually probably OK with that one. So I can leave that one there. So I will. And then let's go ahead and do one more. New point feature definition. This one's going to be a drone target. And a DT for that, but let's call it, let's call it drone for now. And then our layer, let's make this a new layer. And because we need to start practicing working with our layers, and we'll call this photo. And color on our survey marker, we kind of want those ones to stand out again, so maybe we'll go ahead and make that yellow. Okay. Now, this, I'm not going to use this one here, and I'm not going to import this time. Actually, I'm going to create a new symbol. So if I come up on my toolbar here, I can come to my symbol editor. Just a little bit more in the middle here. And I'll come over to my symbol, and I'm going to hit add. We'll call it drone target. Click OK. Now I'm going to draw, and we'll start with drawing a line. I could also just hit the hotkeys here. So we'll start here, and we'll go there, and then we'll go there, there. Oops. And okay, now we got our target made. And now we'll go File, save it, we'll close that. So now here, we'll come over here to our symbol again. So we got new symbol, right? So we come over here and we look underneath here, and we're going to import our symbols. Go back and browse for our file, but now I'm just coming to our symbols library, and I'll open that up. All right, and then when I come down, notice I've got my drone target now. Move that over. Click OK. Now I'll pick my drone target. All right, now this one is a fixed size on the ground, and they're 18 inches. So we'll just call this, we'll just call it a half a meter. Close enough. There we go. Boom, there we go. And then, so there's our new target that we had just created. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and move on from here. Okay, we just keep going on and on and on with all of our points that we want. Once we've got all of our points done, then we can move into our lines. If you want to do lines first, you can. It just so happened that I did the points first. So now we will come back up to our survey category. We'll right click on this, and we're going to go new. We're going to go with a new line feature. So now this one, let's do a flow line. FL. So the category is still survey. Our feature layer, now we're going to have a new layer. And let's call this new layer drainage. So our line style, again, I'm going to come out here. I don't want that just to be a solid line. So I'm going to go ahead and import line styles. And then I'm going to go to the source file to browse and browse. And then I've got, again, a bunch that I've already got in here. I have that switched to all files, but these can be TGO line styles, AutoCAD DWF or DXF or DWG, or they could be Trimble line styles and Autodesk lines. So there's quite a few options that you have. I actually have some AutoCAD lines that I like a lot. So I'll open that one. And that gives me access to these. So I will then pick that line that I want, move it over to the left. Okay. And now when I come out here to my line style and pull down, that line that I just imported is now there. All right. And then I come down and I fill out the rest of my stuff. Again, label styles we're going to come back to. And in the field, if you want to see it in the field, you want to see that as solid in the field or dashed. Well, I made it dashed here, so I'll make it dashed in the field. If there are any points that are collected on that line, do you want them to go to a different layer? You can. You can have those all go to the points layer and then have the line itself just go to the drainage layer, but I'm going to go ahead and stick them all on the drainage layer. And this one I'm going to include in the surface. All right. So now let's go ahead and do another line. So we've got a flow line there. You can use that in a couple of different groups, but let's go ahead and do a specific line. Let's go new and a new line feature. We'll call this center line. And that'll go into our survey category. And let's go ahead and make a new layer again. We'll call this road. And that line style for our center line, do I want that to be solid, or let's go ahead and do that whole import thing again so that we get some more practice with it. So we'll come out here and we're going to browse. I like my line types, but again, you can pick whatever you want. If you've got a DWG file that you've already set up all of your line styles in your CAD system with, there's no reason not to import them in. Grab it, open it, and for our center line, let's see what we got. Here we go. Let's use that one. Whoops. I have a problem doing that when I do that. Just in case you missed it the first time. Move it on over to that side. Click OK. Now we can select it. We've got center line, center line. Points again, I'm going to have those go onto our roads layer as well. Include in surface, yes. I'll click OK. All right, so now we've got our center line in here. So let's go ahead and add a block or two, and then we'll talk about some codes on how we control these lines and these blocks. So first off, let's start by adding a block into our survey. So let's go ahead and go new, and this time we're going to go ahead and do a block feature. And for this block, let's call this a tree. So let's get a bit better than that. We'll go coniferous tree. Call that CT. Feature layer. Well, we need a new layer again, don't we? Because we don't have that one. This one's vegetation. All right. So now we come up here and we go to our block name, and let's go ahead and import some blocks. And I come out and I've got a couple of different DWG files that I can pull these from. Again, my sources can be DWG or DXF. So I'll go ahead and pick my symbols DWG, click open. Oops, sorry about that. No problem. And now, so this is a little bit different. So now that I've done that, it just imports them to this point. So now I can go ahead and pick that kind of tree that I want. And let's go ahead and go tree number 4. So these things here, my line style is going to be really, it says by layer and colored by layer, but it's all going to be kind of controlled by this block that I'm importing. So this is somewhat overwritten at this point. But how I insert it is important. And right now I've got it by using control codes, but I could control it by 1, 2, or 3 point here, but we're going to stick with codes because we're actually going to create these control codes in the next step. And then again, our points, again, let's go ahead and have our points on this be in our vegetation layer. This coniferous tree, I do not want to include in the surface. So I'm going to make sure that you catch that. You know, are these things in or out of your surface? You want to make sure that you're really paying attention to that as you're going along and building these. If you don't, it makes a mistake. You have to do a little editing later. It's not that big of a deal. But this is where you can kind of prevent some of those edits in the office. Click OK. All right, so now here's our tree with our tree symbol. And we're pretty happy with that. And let's go ahead and make, no, let's just go ahead and leave it at that. We'll do one on that. So now what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and create some code so that we can further better work with these lines while we're in the field. Give us a little bit more control over those. So these control codes do just exactly that. So we'll come up to our line control codes, highlight that, right click on it, new, and now I want to do a new line control code. So this comes up and it gives me a list of all of the different commands that I can actually put in to associate as a control code. What I want to do first off is I want to have a start. So I'm going to say I want to start a new line. So we're going to call this one a start. And the code on it, we're going to call it an ST. And this is going to start a new line joining sequence. And the previous joining sequence with the same code is ended. All right, so that's exactly what we want. So I click OK. Now it gives me a view of it. Here it is over in my control codes. Back up to my line control codes. Right click, new line control code. If we have a start, we need to have an end. Let's go ahead and make an end. Select our end, ends the joining sequence, click OK. There's our start and our end command. Under our control codes, there are some really nice ones. There's a couple of them that I really like a lot. So as I go in and I say new and a new line control code, one that I like quite a bit is the ability to create both circle and close a rectangle. So if you come in here, you can say, all right, well, I want to start a circle with an associated point as the first known point on the circle, followed by the next 2 known points, which is probably my favorite one. You can start a circle with an associated point as the center and then give a radius, or your next point can become the radius. And those 2 features right there are hugely helpful in the field if you're trying to trace around a circular object, as well as the same thing is available for a rectangle. But let's start off with our circle. We're going to call this one is going to be our re circle. That means a 3-point circle. Give it 3 C's. And it will come down to our circle with 3 points. Click OK. So now we got our 3 circle. Come back to our line control code. Let's do another new one here. A new line control code. Make that a little bit bigger so it's easier for you to see. So now the next one, we'll go ahead and do a 2-point circle. Or no, let's go ahead and you saw the circle. That's good enough. Let's go ahead and do a close command. You may want to do, if you collect 3 points on something or 4 points on something, you want it to automatically close back, and it will. So if you're walking around the shed or something, you don't have to get 3/4 of the shed. It'll automatically close the rest of it for you. Call this a close. And we'll give that to close line to the first point. Okay. So those are line control codes. All right. So that gives you a lot of flexibility. As you saw in there, there's a lot of different tools that you can add in there. And these stack on top of your code. So you add your code and your control code in the field, and then that gives what gives you that functionality. So the same thing goes with block control codes. So if I come in and say new block control code, this gives me the ability to place things based on 1, 2, or 3 points. So, for example, if I wanted to be able to place that coniferous tree based on a 3-point insertion, then I can. So what I can do is I can call this a 3-point insert, and go PPP. And so then I will do this one because it's the point, and then the next 2 points. So that's 3 points. Click OK. So now when I'm out in the field and I hit coniferous tree, and then I can hit CT and then PPP, and then it'll walk me through a series of instructions on the data collector on how to collect 3 points to go ahead and insert that block of that coniferous tree. And that tree is then going to be scaled to, the drip lines. You're going to be able to place the trunk as well. So again, let's go through that one more time. Let's go ahead and do one more of those block control codes. So we'll right-click a new, come down to a new block control code. Let's call this one a 2-point insertion. And our field code will be PP, and that will insert a block using a point and the next point. So this doesn't have to be a tree. It can be all kinds of different things. It can be drain pans, parking medians, all kinds of different things may have standardized shapes that you can go ahead and just place them in based on insertion points. It's kind of like drafting in the field on the ground. So there you've got those. You can also do a straight, 1 point as well. You saw that in there, I'm sure, but we'll go ahead and put that in. This is just a 1 point. Now you just walk right up and put the object where you want, like a fire hydrant. And that fire hydrant's already scaled and everything based on the block that we pulled in. And then you just go ahead and put it out there with 1 point. So like I said, it's just like life-size drafting in the field in real time. So, okay, so now as we've built, and we just keep continuing to build and build and build, and we've got points and lines, and we've got control codes and all of these different things, but these can get very cumbersome. And if you've ever looked inside of, say, the global features featured net or the global features feature code library, you'll see that there's hundreds of features in there. And they can get kind of tedious to go through every single one. If you're inside your data collector and you hit a feature code, and all of a sudden you're just in the list in the E's, and all of a sudden you've got to scroll through 7 E's to get to the one E that you want for electric panel. This groups can help you alleviate that. So you can come to your groups, new group, and we can call this group, let's call this group topo. Okay, and what would go into our topo work? So those things might be our, well, right off we want our ground shot. Okay, we're probably going to need a flow line. So we'll probably need a drone target in there. Okay, so now let's come back to our groups, and let's say now we've got a new group of legal. boundary, and then we can have legal on the description. So, because the reason I want to do that is because legal description, when we get into the other one, I started rethinking the way I wanted to do that. So we'll just call this boundary. So then we can come in and put in, this could be a survey cap, right, on this one. You may have a flow line in there. You may have center line, so things might be based off of different things. So you may have those different things available to you. You don't have to add in your control codes because those will be carried over in the feature definition manager as kind of an upper side. That's why they're located at the top. So then we can have another group. What would be another? We could have a road group. So we can go in here and say new group. We'll call this one road. And under road, now we can go ahead and put in we'll need our center line, our flow line. And then, we may have some drone targets in there. We may have to have our cap in there. So we just stack those groups however we want. They have abilities to edit these groups in the fields and stack them the way that they want as well, but this is just a way for you to kind of pre-organize it for them. You can set a group up if you're doing cross sections, where you can go ahead and step it across doing the cross section. So they're extremely handy. Then once we've gotten to where we want to be, now we can come up and hit file. Now we're going to hit save. This is going to be our name it whatever you want. Save it. And now we've saved it. So let's talk a little bit now about import-export. So if you come in here now and I want to export, I can export this to a file. I can actually export this as a CSV file, as a Nikon code list, as a custom text file that I build. I can do it as a data dictionary file if I'm interacting with mapping. I can do a feature and attribute library. So these are all the different things that I may need to do as an export. So then once I've exported that out, then I can go ahead and use the appropriate data collector that I want. When we have a new file up here, and if I want to import an existing file to go ahead and populate my new feature and attribute library from, or my feature code library from, I can come out and then pick one of my old ones that I have, or even a CSV file. So if I grab a CSV file, then it brings it in, and then what this allows me to do is I can say, okay, well, from here, the only thing I really want is the brush. So we'll take those two things. I add the points. Now on my point side, those two things are in there. I need to right click and say that was its name, and this was its code. So I define that, and then I add those to my feature library. Now that new feature code is right there. And again, I can come out and then start doing all of those things that we were just doing, new symbol, and come out and navigate out to where I want to import my symbols from, that file. Got a bush. Now you say, okay, the fixed value at 1 meter is not going to work for me. So maybe on this one, I'm going to insert it by attribute. Okay. And the attribute name, I would then pick it. I actually go to fixed value and then we'll put that back because I don't have any attributes built for this. I switched libraries. So this could be, let's say our standard bush is kind of a 2 meter, 6 foot diameter kind of deal. Click OK. Give it a name. And there is our bush. Okay, so that's from importing that feature code directly from a different feature code library. That really about covers it. All of this information can then be found in your help menu. The help menus in Trimble are actually the entire manuals on how to work through things. They are extremely helpful. They are very useful. They're relevant and up to date. So I highly encourage you looking through them. Beyond that, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out and contact me. And again, I'm in Colorado, but we have a full staff of people in New Mexico as well. So you should be able to reach us at any time that you want. And we're always available to answer any kind of questions you may have. You can also leave questions below in the comments. And if you find this useful, please hit the subscribe button, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much for attending, and take care.